It is time for another Second Act show, believe it or not. I am your co-host, John Tarnoff, a career coach and fumfer around with technology, and I'm joined by my co-host, the lovely Carrie Hannon. So today, Carrie, I've decided that we are the Rob and Laura Petrie of Second Act Careers.
Oh, bingo. Liking that one. Good job.
Right, that's kind of reaching deep for people of a certain age. But
weren't
they our heroes somehow? The great Rob and Laura Petrie, right, of the early '60s. I think I'm kind of inspired by reading something about Dick Van Dyke, who's still around, right, and still plugging away in his 90s, and just indefatigable. And I think that's a wonderful metaphor for all of us.
Yeah, and she did so much to, push women in many directions in terms of the visibility and working women with her show and so forth. So
absolutely,
after she left the Dick Van Dyke,
yeah,
so that was all great stuff. But it's wonderful to be with you today. It's nice to have our guest on, who I'm a big fan of. So I'll let you
absolutely
do the intros.
So today we have Beverly Jones on, who is an executive, lawyer, academic, entrepreneur, executive coach, many hats. She's arguably lived many acts. She's the author of this new book, Find Your Happy at Work, which we're going to talk about. But we'll also talk about the secrets of reinvention. And through her work, working with professionals in government, academia, nonprofits, and other businesses, she's got a good handle on the nuances of career transition. And as we're going into a new year, we thought it would be great to hear her thoughts on this question of career transition and give us some tips and tricks about how we can all do better as we move on into this new phase of whatever it's going to be in 2023. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Beverly on, having some minor technology gaffes today, but I think there we are. We are all
hello.
On. Hi, Beverly.
Hey,
welcome.
Great to see you both.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Great to have you.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you with us today. I'm a big fan of yours, as you well know, and I have your new book here. I want everyone to take a good look at that cover, because not only are we going to talk about career transition, but, Bev, you also are really in tune to how people can, find joy and meaning in the work they do right now as well, right? So there's lots of different angles we can get at. But I guess to kick off, how do you see, as we go into the next year, into 2023, how people over 50 who may have done some soul searching during the pandemic, how can they kind of jumpstart their next act? What should they be thinking of? What are some of the big challenges that you see from your vantage point?
Well, some of the long-time challenges are there. There's still ageism out there. There's still angst that comes with making a shift sometime. But I think there's lots of good news. There are many areas where there's real interest in bringing in people from another career and repurposing the skill sets they have, making use of it. There's a lot of tolerance that didn't exist for people who want to change career and might need some help, like a fellowship or something to get there. Because the old idea of career that we started out with, which is you had to be on a ladder and you kept climbing and you stayed in your lane and all of those things. I think COVID has blown that apart, and there are a lot of opportunities out there, I think.
One of the things that I find is challenging for many people that I talk to is this transition of identity in many ways between the way you saw yourself in a job, certainly in corporate, coming up 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s, and now 50s into 60s and beyond. There's a different identity, I think, that we have to assume, and it's a transition. And ageism has something to do with it, but I think also we kind of have had different assumptions about what we were going to be like at this age and what we were going to do, and the world has changed. So how do we help people kind of take on a growth mindset around their careers and themselves, their identities as professionals moving into this new phase?
Well, one thing is to help them do an assessment of where they are and what they want and what they're seeking. Many people are changing careers because they don't really um, like some aspect of what they're doing, but other people just feel thrown out. They maybe lost their job and they can't stay on the same um, path. I think the starting point when I'm working with a client is to figure out what did they love about any phase in their career? What are their favorite things they've ever done? And then what do they know about what they do want? And if they may have no idea of what they want their next job or career to be, but they know they want flexibility, or they want some new learning, or they want a better sense of community. So I think we start by figuring out first the things you hated, and then translate that to the positive. For you can identify what you're going for. But I think particularly with people who've been successful for a while in a career, one of the hardest things is giving up their expertise, giving up the sense of being respected, giving up their title. When I went from being a lawyer and an executive in my early 50s and started talking about being a coach, my husband thought I was losing my mind. I think he was supportive, but in the way of Bev's going through this, we have to help her, that kind of way. And I had cards made up before I had any clients that said that I was an executive coach. And he said, "Oh, don't tell people you're a coach." And I said, "Why not?" And he said, "They'll think you're in Little League." It was so early. So I know I felt as a lawyer, I knew my expertise. And as a coach, I didn't know what I was doing. And part of what I had to learn as part of being a coach is not pre-thinking what you're doing, just being open and listening. But by recognizing that I did like having some expertise, I did like being in a learning path. I tried to put all of those things in my career before I had a real career. And that's what I do with my clients. If you loved having a staff and you love being a professional, but now you want to work alone as a carpenter, maybe what you do is you find other ways to meet some of your needs. It doesn't all have to come for your paid job. And you can join a nonprofit and you can be a leader there. You can get some of your community satisfaction there. And then you can be a carpenter and digging deep and not feeling that it was a failing career because it didn't every need. I think that
there are a few
oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Beverly. We were just having a little, at least from my end, a little technical stuff with your audio, but I think
Beverly, would you kind of say that last part again?
The last part, saying that I believe that the assessment really is the beginning. That's what you have to deal with. And that means looking at the things you like, the things you don't like, the things that you know, and the things that you don't know at all and want to start exploring.
Yeah, I love that. And Bev, one other quick thing, when you were talking about becoming a coach for yourself, and when you kind of did that inner soul searching, and you remembered how, I know when we talked about your career when you were at OU, at Ohio University, how much mentoring, and even throughout your career, mentoring was something, as a lawyer, as a corporate lawyer and a lobbyist, you love to mentor, especially women, but in general, that really translated to coaching.
That's right. I gradually realized that mentoring people, particularly in the context of career, was really my thing. As a very young leader in a university, part of my job was opening doors for women to get into fields where women had not been. I was the first woman in an MBA program, and I was really focused on opening doors for women. And when I kind of finished that phase and went on to law school, and found myself first in law firms, what I found myself doing, I was a little older than my colleagues fresh out of school, and I found myself kind of mentoring them. It's something that I love, and that's how, without meaning to. That's how I built my network. That's why I had a circle to start with when I switched to coaching. So it's a theme in my life, and it took me, I don't know, decades to notice that that's what always made me happy, but I finally did.
I want to pick up on this idea of network, which I think is so important. And it is something which is important partially because of the question of isolation. I think that that starts to creep up on us as we get older and we kind of find ourselves in a particular channel or trough. And I think to make these transitions, the network and being able to interact with that network and grow that network is particularly important. But again, back to the question of identity, how do we get back out there? How do we kind of downshift and renew those contacts, build new contacts, and find our new calling, perhaps, through our interactions with others?
Well, one of the things I mentioned in this book, it has some chapters on networking, is I like to start by visualizing my network and working with clients to visualize theirs. I kind of think of mine as a series of concentric circles spreading out around me. And for all of us, we have a central circle. And for introverts, it's particularly important. It's the people we know the very best, our favorite members of the family or whatever it is. The next group out is our best friends, and we like to hang out with them the most, but we're not likely to learn new things for them. There's another phase that's people who we've been acquainted with, and that includes everybody you ever met, the person you sat next to in first year of college, all of those people. So one of the first things you do is you look at each of those circles where you have relationships and you cultivate them, you get in touch with people. And then you look at the further out circles. We belong to communities that we don't even know about. The university we attended probably has an alumni group, which is a community. The people who live near us, the people who are involved in nonprofits that we care about. So finding ways to start there is easy because you already have a connection. So I think the first thing you do is you look at your starting points and you engage in them. But the other thing is you start wherever you are. I had a client one time who was quite a shy person and didn't want to network, but we just looked for ways for her to take little steps. And she decided that she would get to know people in yoga class. So she'd hang around for 5 minutes at the end of the class and not leave. Finally, she asked one of her classmates to go for coffee. And in the process, she mentioned that the kind of job she was looking for, and the person she was drinking coffee with worked for an organization that needed that kind of person. And she had a job within 2 weeks of her first big networking coffee. But it doesn't always happen like that. But you start where you are, wherever it's easiest, wherever you're the most comfortable.
But it's surprising because I have a client story like that as well, which I use all the time, about a guy who found a job in 2 weeks after having been searching for jobs and applying for jobs and sending his resume out for months. And this is a guy who is an operations guy, senior SVP, COO kind of guy, could not get arrested. And then I said to him, get out more, volunteer. And sure enough, at one of these volunteer opportunities, someone said, hey, you have a resume? And it just led to this completely unexpected opportunity, which he grabbed and he's still doing. So, I think that one of the things that your experience that you talk about, and the experience of my client, is the unexpected, right? We think we know what's up, but we don't. We really don't. I think we need to kind of think about changing things up and not
another
believing
reason
in our
to
assumptions all the time.
start wherever you can and wherever you are is that you build your skill set and you learn to be a little bit more comfortable. If you're comfortable in your church, then you go to a committee meeting or a Sunday school class or something like that, and make an effort to just speak up a little bit or talk to the shy person in the room. And every time you do something like that, you'll be more comfortable and you'll be building your networking skill set. And it'll make it easier when you do want to go to some place where your colleagues are going to be.
You know, and Bev, you've also mentioned in your books and so forth about sometimes when people think that they're going to be really interested in career transitioning into another, a different kind of business or a different kind of work or subject area, that just to go take a class, don't, really as part of that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the importance, and that goes to your baby steps thing there is, getting in a course. And then also, if you wouldn't mind, just elaborate then on this whole idea of, I know this is one of your favorite topics, is how learning really can build resilience at this age in our life, and also show that we're willing to learn new ways of doing things.
Okay, let me see if I can remember all these questions.
We'll start
I think
taking one class.
yes. Well, the first thing is, get back to what I said in the context of networking, and that start wherever you are. It can take quite a long time to make a career transition, particularly if you want to do something new. So start learning in kind of small steps for a half an hour a week or whatever it takes about potential fields. From there, you might, if you decide, oh gosh, I really like numbers, I'm tired of people, I want to be an accountant, volunteer as an accountant for a nonprofit group, or help with bookkeeping, or take a bookkeeping course. Take small steps that give you experience. And from there, for many people, the magic is a side gig. You think you might like to do PR, and so you volunteer with an organization to do it for free, and then you pass around your card and you get your first client. Doing something in addition to your day job could be a great way to keep learning. Now, back to learning, there's no doubt about it that learning's good for our health, it's good for our brains, it's good for our socializing, but it's also fun, and it's a bridge to whatever the next step is. When you are in learning mode, you have a different mindset. You have a more curious mindset, and you're positive, because learning, when you're actually learning, it's fun. You get those little feelings of excitement, chemically based excitement, partly because your body is sending you little bits of chemical support. When you learn something, it's just like, aha, I've got it. And so learning is good for your mindset. Learning is good for having you be more curious about everything that's going on, and that helps you make connections. It makes it easier for you to talk with other people. It also brings useful information. I mean, you never know, but haven't you learned something new? It could just be a new word, and then it seems like for the next 3 days you have a chance to use that word or concept. So even if it's random, if it has nothing to do with your career path, learning something is good for your career and your health and your well-being.
Well said. I was thinking about the back to this small steps question, and the question of making a big transition and taking a small step to make a big transition. But I also think it kind of works in reverse, where I've seen a lot of people say, well, I feel like I'm kind of done in this particular career, and I need to find something completely different, when actually it's not that they're done with the career, it's that they are done with some of the responsibilities in the career. And the task is to kind of separate all of the stuff that doesn't work, to find the gems that do work, and then maybe niche down on those qualities, such as mentoring or working with people, and or working with a certain, if you're back to the accounting example, if you're an accountant and you just love the numbers and you hate all the admin that comes with it, ditch the admin, figure out a way to just work on the numbers.
You're exactly right. And when I said to do the assessment at the beginning, that's a good starting place. But the fact is, one of the ways we manage our careers is keep assessing, keep trying to notice. Even people, I think of people who did a huge switch. And actually, I was a senior corporate executive, and I decided to be a coach. That's a pretty big thing. But even if it looks like a crazy surprise junk from the outside. From the inside, what often happens is you recognize, gosh, I love this part, but I love the human part. I love the mentoring, but I don't want to do the budgeting and I'm tired of X, Y, and Z. So it's all about being honest with yourself about what you're good at as well as what you're not good at. Lots of times people focus on what they're not good at and they don't give themselves credit for what they're good at because or sometimes don't like bragging, including to themselves. So if you can really face up to, gosh, I did that really well, and own it, then that can be a hint of the next thing you want to do, but it's still repurposing a skill set that you're already comfortable using.
And Bev, with your clients that you work with, how important, and I have to ask this because this is my thing, how important is their financial health to helping them understand what their parameters are? I mean, do you talk to them about that whole issue and what role does that play in a career transition?
It absolutely does. I deal with quite a few clients who are in the kind of senior leaders in the federal government, and they have the wonderful possibility of a very strong safety net when they leave. But people who don't have that kind of old-fashioned retirement that the government still gives, I think really struggle with how much money am I going to need? What am I going to do? What's my plan B if it doesn't work out? And a lot of times they're so worried about it that they don't look at it analytically. So I think one of the first things to think about if you're making a big shift is maybe, and you're not really comfortable in where you are financially, is you hire some help or you find help in another way, and then you set up a safety net for yourself in case whatever you do doesn't work out. And you also think about a possible, we're back to the side gigs. You if you're going to make a leap and you're going to start a new business, maybe you can take your old skill set and have something on the side to give you a part-time income stream until you launch your new business. But I think financial health and your insistence on being realistic and facing up to things like, oh, I could do this if I got rid of my credit card debt and I learned to live on a budget. That kind of advice, Carrie, that you've given better than anybody I know in the context of career planning. It's exactly right. And if you're a coach, if you're in the career field, you don't yourself have to be an expert. It's just like sometimes we want to suggest another kind of counseling or something for a client. Well, right there, and that's that same obligation to point out other kinds of skill sets that could be helpful is the suggestion that you get help and getting real about your finances.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Bev, before we go, I really wanted to talk about your book. I know Carrie wants to talk about your book. So how do you get your happy at work? Tell us about this.
Okay, well, now I only have like 2 minutes or something. But what my book is about is how even if you're worried about your job, even if you're bored by your job, no matter what the situation is, a lot of how much we like our work is about us on the inside and how we're approaching what we do every day. One of the quick things I have is that what I call the engagement triangle. If you look at all of the leadership and workplace engagement stuff, it really comes down to 3 things, I think. People, purpose, and processes. The people are, what kind of human engagement do you want? How do you manage it? How do you stay in touch? How can you get more or less of what you want? Kind of constantly gauging that. Process is your expertise. It's the stuff you actually like to do. And purpose, of course, is what's the mission of your job or yourself? Or if you hate your job, why are you getting satisfaction by saving up to put your kids through school? So quickly, if you just kind of analyze and focus where you are on those three things, that would be a way. I think in one conversation with a new client, I think I can help people have a mind shift, change, and be on the road to or feel much happy about the work. And the book is full of lots of small things that you can do, from journaling to saying thank you, a bunch of things you can do. If you want to enjoy your work now, and you can just start on the inside.
I love that. And it's just such a positive, and those are
It sounds
things
like
that we often do. It's
Absolutely. So coaching can feel magical because you can see somebody getting happy in a hurry. And I struggled with how to express this for a long time. But what I'm trying to do is give a little bit of self-coaching in a book, and so that people can make those quick changes that we do see in coaching quite often.
excellent. And Bev, what
well,
really
it sounds like, though, what you're doing is you're kind of combining joy and self-responsibility.
Yeah. And I think it's choosing happiness means making a lot of choices along that line.
Yeah. Want to run it?
because it is a choice. I mean, we have that opportunity,
ahead.
and I think you give a real blueprint for people to get launched on this path, Bev. And is there any, besides that, I think we have another minute or two anyway, is there any other exercise you would recommend for people to do?
Yes, let me just quickly mention a few things. One of them, an old standard, is some kind of gratitude ritual where every morning or evening you notice some things you appreciate and maybe some things you want to let go of. Learning something new, even if you do it in small steps, is always good. Taking breaks. A lot of people are not liking their work because they're exhausted and they don't. You have to take breaks all day long, and you have to have vacations, and you have to have days off. So taking like tiny breaks throughout the day will help. Doing something kind is one of the best things that changes your emotional status, all the research shows. And talking back to the voice in your head. Sometimes we're miserable because we're telling ourselves life is miserable. And if you talk back to that nasty internal voice, you can have a big change.
That's great.
Love it.
That's great. So I'm going to put up the URL for your website, if I can. There, it's coming. And this is where people can go to learn more about the book.
Yep.
And Carrie everyone's showing it here, so you can sure find it on
Love
Amazon, but also check in on Beverly's website to learn more about her and her work.
Thank you
So
very
that's
much. I've
great.
loved being here.
So any
fun.
great.
Go ahead, John.
Any parting words for 2023 for our listeners and viewers?
My parting comment is you have more opportunity and more control over your happiness and success than you can possibly realize. It's very difficult to see those things for yourself. But if you talk with other people and maybe write in your journal, I think you'll discover a lot of positive possibilities for 2023.
Excellent. Love it.
Great.
Love it.
So before we go, I just wanted to briefly mention our upcoming episode. After the first of the year, we're going to be talking with Mike Drack, who is an author and a positive retirement advocate who has just returned from attempting an Ironman in Mexico. So we're going to get the lowdown on that and talk to him. And with that, Carrie, what else can we say? It's been another great episode. It's been great having Beverly on, and we will see everyone on our next show.
Yeah, look forward to the new year.
And Beverly, hang around for a little bit.
Okay.
We'll reconnect after the outro.